Why hiring using psychometric assessments will help you reduce your turnover rates by 39%. Psychometric assessments are tools that are used to measure or determine whether a job candidate will be successful in that particular job role or not. These assessments are used to make smarter, data-driven hiring decisions during the recruitment process. One of the factors that psychometric assessments uses to determine whether a candidate will be successful or not is by measuring the cognitive ability of that particular candidate. They also measure whether that candidate can fit into your organization culture, what we call cultural fit. And also they help to determine whether the interests and passions of that particular candidate are in line with the job role. Now, cognitive ability assessments, they typically measure the candidate's ability to use the available information to them to perform the common day-to-day tasks or solve the common day-to-day problems that come with that particular job role. I know every HR practitioners outside there, at one point in time in their practice, they must have at one point recruited a new hire who was perfect on paper. They checked all the boxes, the background checks all checked out. They performed very well during the interview process, but once they were placed on the job, they were not able to perform. I think that's an experience that almost every HR has ever encountered during their HR practice. Now, this is an indicator, such a case is an indicator of a candidate who did not have the cognitive ability that is required for that particular job role. So why do we measure cognitive ability? Number one, we understand based on research that 42% of a candidate's or a new hire's performance is determined by their cognitive ability. Also, based on research, we understand that new hires who have a high cognitive ability, they tend to reach full productivity 50% faster compared to new hires who have a lower cognitive ability. Also, based on research, we understand that new hires who have a high cognitive ability, they tend to be 35% more productive compared to new hires who yes have the technical skills, but they have lower cognitive ability. Cognitive ability assessments, they measure the candidate's capacity to reason, the ability to learn quickly, ability to solve problems, and also to make sound decisions under pressure. Now, cognitive candidates who have a high cognitive ability or new hires who have a high cognitive ability, they have been found to make fewer errors during the onboarding process. That means the organization saves more due to errors, and also there are fewer customer complaints. Also, new hires who have a high cognitive ability, they tend to reach full productivity faster. That ensures that the organization gets a faster return on investment on that recruitment position. Also, new hires who have a high cognitive ability, they tend to adapt quickly to new tools, processes, and role changes. That ensures that the organization gets more dividends or faster dividends to any operational changes that they have put in place. Also, new hires who have a high cognitive ability, they tend to stay longer with the organization due to higher confidence. This means lower recruitment costs for the organization, lower onboarding costs, and reduced disruptions due to unexpected vacancies. Also, new hires who have a high cognitive ability, they tend to require less supervision during hand-holding. They're able to solve the common day-to-day challenges that come with that particular job role. Hence, they don't require help every now and then from the managers or from their peers. Also, new hires who have a high cognitive ability, they are more likely to progress into higher roles. This ensures that there is a more compact succession pipeline for the organization in case their vacancies arise into higher position roles. Now, what are the outcomes of incorporating psychometric assessments in the organization? Is that organizations that use psychometric assessments, they tend to be 35% to enjoy 35% higher employee performance. They enjoy 39% reduction in turnover. They enjoy 25% improved hiring accuracy. They also have a 60% likelihood of getting employees who are going to stay longer with the organization for 5 years plus and longer. And also, they tend to enjoy 50% faster hiring cycles. Of course, this is based on research on various organizations by the organization called Aberdeen Group. What is the investment on Psychometrics? For recruitment into entry-level positions, the organization will part with 2,500 Kenya shillings per shortlisted candidate. For recruitment into middle management or operational and support roles, the organization will part with 10,000 Kenya shillings per shortlisted candidate. For senior management positions, the investment will be 24,000 Kenya shillings for every shortlisted candidate on the final list. What is the return on investment on Psychometrics? One of the ways organizations make profit is by becoming more productive for less or for the same amount of investment they're required to make. In other words, let's say on an average scale, a sales employee is supposed to bring about, let's say, 5 customers every month. And for such a self-employee, you are paying them 50,000 Kenya shillings. Now, if you get an employee, a sales employee, a new hire who, for the same salary of 50,000, has a high cognitive ability, that means they'll be able to bring more customers per month. Let's say for this example, 8 customers per month. That means for the same investment of the salary, which is 50,000, the organization is able to get more out of that employee. So those are one of the ways companies make more profit. They get more dividends, they get more productivity out of the same amount of investment that they have made, or compared to the investment that is typically made on the job market. Another way that organizations make profit is by reducing losses. When you reduce your losses, then you increase your higher chances of making a profit on your operational costs. Now we are going to see how psychometric assessments are able to, and they're able to make companies make profit when it comes to the recruitment of their teams. Now, when we look at the savings an organization can make by reduction of turnover, based on research by SHRM, we understand that the cost of turnover is from 50% to 200% of the annual salary of that particular position. Of course, that amount depends on the seniority. For more senior positions, the cost of turnover is 200%. For lower positions, it's around 50%. Now, these costs are incurred due to onboarding and orientation costs, ATS technology costs, training and ramp-up time costs. That is the amount of money the company has lost when they got an employee and that employee was not able to perform for the first 6 months. Also, some of the cost that is incurred is through job advertising and agency fees, and also the loss in productivity when that particular position was vacant. So, let's assume the average salary employee in an operational role in Kenya is 50,000 Kenya shillings. That means their salary is 600,000 Kenya shillings. That is 50,000 times 12. Now, let's assume the estimated turnover for this organization is 4 employees every year. According to research, when we incorporate psychometric assessments based on case studies and research, is that there is a reduction on turnover rates by 39%. So on a typical case, if an organization loses 4 employees, that means that every year they can avert at least one, they can prevent at least 1 employee from leaving. That is 39% of 4. So using the salary and the cost of turnover, that means when a company prevents 1 employee from leaving or averts 1 employee from leaving, they save, let's say, use a conservative amount of 50% of the annual salary of that employee. That means it's 50,000. If the annual salary of the employee is 600,000 and the amount of money we are saving is 50% that amount, of course, based on the research by SHRM, that means the amount of money saved by averting 1 employee from leaving is 300,000 Kenya shillings. Now, we incorporate the cost of psychometrics for hiring for an operational role. The cost per psychometric is 10,000 Kenya shillings. Let's assume during the recruitment process, 3 candidates made into the last shortlist. So that is 10,000 times 3. That is 30,000 Kenya shillings. Now, we subtract 30,000 Kenya shillings from the amount of money that has been saved by averting an employee from leaving. So that is 300,000 Kenya shillings minus 30,000. That amounts to 270,000 Kenya shillings return on investments when we incorporate psychometric assessments into the recruitment process. Now, let us look at the savings made on the productivity side. We understand based on research that employees with high cognitive ability are 35% more productive. Yeah, this means a lot for the organization. Typically for this position, we are paying 50,000, but the productivity we are getting from a high cognitive ability employee is 135% of the average productivity rates. Now, if we are going to use the salary of an employee as the measure of the productivity they bring into the organization, we understand that if the salary of an employee is 50,000, in real case, the amount of money they are bringing into the organization is more than 50,000 Kenya shillings. But because different industries and different companies have different ways of measuring the productivity of an employee, let us assume that the average productivity of an employee is equivalent to the salary they are getting. Or in other words, the expected productivity, or the way we can measure their productivity, is by using their salary. So, based on research, we know that high cognitive ability employees, they are 35% more productive. So this means in 1 month, the increase in productivity for this employee who has been recruited using psychometric assessments is 35% of their salary, which is 17,500 Kenya shillings. This is the increase in productivity we are getting. So by paying them the average salary of 50,000 Kenya shillings, the value that they are bringing is 67,500 Kenya shillings. That is per month. So every month, they are bringing 17,500 Kenya shillings extra in terms of increased productivity. In 1 year, this translates to 210,000 Kenya shillings. That is 17,500 multiplied by 12 months, equating to 210,000 Kenya shillings. The cost of psychometrics, just like the way we have seen, we assume that 3 candidates made the final list, the shortlisted list, and each and every of the 3 candidates, we administer psychometric assessments to determine which one had a higher cognitive ability. Now the cost of psychometrics amounts to 30,000 Kenya shillings. Now, what is the return on investment? The 210,000 Kenya shillings, which is the amount in Kenya shillings that the company has got in terms of increase in productivity, we subtract 30,000 Kenya shillings, which is the cost incurred due to administering psychometrics. Then what we are getting is that there is 180,000 Kenya shillings return on investment. Now, if we couple that with the savings that you have made by averting turnover in the earlier case that you have seen, so we are going to add the savings on turnover, which was 300,000 Kenya shillings, and the increase in productivity that we have gotten from this employee who was recruited using psychometric assessments, which is 210,000 Kenya shillings. Then we subtract the cost of psychometrics, that is 30,000. Then the total return on investment is 480,000 Kenya shillings in terms of returns. So this is a snapshot of what an organization stands to benefit when they incorporate psychometric assessments into their recruitment and people strategy. Some of the organizations that use psychometric assessments, of course, is the Kenya government. We have recruitment agencies that use psychometric assessments. We have Flexi Personnel, we have Stratostaff, we have PwC, we have SheerLogic, we have Ernst & Young, and also we have other organizations like ICA Lions, Centum, KTDA, Fast Assurance, P&F Coaching, plus many other organizations that use psychometric assessments during their recruitment process. I hope this video was helpful to you and for your HR team. Thank you very much.